Hello, it's me, and I'm very happy to bring out yet another ghost cube. Now, this is not like the other ghost cubes that I've had. This is actually the mass-produced version. As you can see, this is Adam. I don't know if you can see this, but Adam and a Meffert's mass-produced puzzle. Now, to be honest with you, when I have done ghost cube tutorials in the past, it's namely as kind of a novelty because most people didn't have the puzzles. It was kind of rare to get something like that, so it was more of a demonstration than a tutorial. But now that this has been mass produced and now that this is more broadly available to people, what I thought I would do is I would kind of backtrack a little bit, slow it down, and demystify the ghost cube. Make it to where it's fairly more straightforward to solve as opposed to more of a demonstration. So this is the original one that I had over here. You can tell that this is handmade. I gotta say that the movement is incredibly smooth. Kind of lost the sticker over here, so we'll ignore that for the moment until I find it. But the movement is very smooth. The movement here is okay. It's kind of clunky a little bit, but I think that has more to do with the tensioning. This one over here, once it's lined up, you can see that the movement is actually very smooth. So this is a very fun one to scramble and a fun one to solve. Now, to those who may be new to the puzzles, or new to ghost puzzles anyway, what it is it's a 3x3, but that's basically solved off-center. So in order to scramble this is you have a top part that looks like, well, any other kind of modification. You can see center, edge, 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 corner, 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 corner. But the middle layer is actually off-center, so you got to turn it here, and this is basically how you have to solve it, because this is the only way to scramble it from here. So it makes for a very difficult kind of a solve, and even a difficult kind of a scramble. Every time I show this to people, they say that it's almost as hard to scramble as it is to solve. But in any case, when I look at the similarities here, the way that this is structured, you've got the center over here, which is one of the centers that can move without any difficulty. And that's like onto, say, this over here. So if we were to look at the comparisons here, I'm just going to put this across here in terms of the similarities. I'm going to move this over here. So here's a side that looks like this. You can see the pieces are not exactly the same. So it occurs to me, and as people have pointed out, when following the tutorial on this one, it doesn't necessarily correlate with the tutorial on this. You can see this side looks kind of like it's a little more skewed. Same thing over here. Now this is where it really ends up different. So you've got this side over here with a little triangle. You've got this over here with a triangle here. As you move over here, you've got this triangle coming up, but this one isn't. So the nature of the solve, I would imagine, is a little bit different. You can see the similarities over here too. So this is the puzzle that I've always used. So I figured I would go ahead and buy and solve this one, but the purpose of this is to kind of demystify it. Now, one of the biggest problems that people have when solving this is the last layer, and that's one of the biggest questions that I had regarding this. So we're going to go through that. Something to notice though, as I put this off center here and I put this off center over here, kind of notice this triangle here. I can move this one in over here, and you see this looks like it fits pretty well. So there's actually equivalencies of these shapes. They're not exactly the same, but they do fit. So when you have that, you can potentially have false equivocation, which means you can accidentally substitute one piece for the other. Something else to notice as I do this is if I take this edge set here and move it into here, like so, splat, this looks like it fits here too. And this looks like it fits here as well. So you can potentially have equivocation of this piece and this piece. So there's possible equivocation of edges and equivocations of corners. And my suspicion is those that have asked questions about this puzzle probably ran into problems with both and found impossible parities. But I'm going to point out one thing. Even though this looks okay, you can tell this doesn't quite fit. So you can actually protect yourself from getting into a false equivocation of the edges and end up with what appears to be a parity, although it's not really a parity, by understanding that at the end of the day, this won't exactly fit and this won't exactly fit. So what we're going to do is go ahead and scramble this and see what we can do with this. I'm just going to show the movement of this puzzle. I highly recommend this. If you enjoy challenges, if you enjoy 3x3s, the fact of the matter is the ghost modifications of all of these puzzles are really the hardest of the various mods that you're going to get, just because of the perspective bending that happens with this. So I was actually very excited to see this thing rolled out, mass-produced. As you can see, movement is pretty good. I'm just going to keep following suit. So, once again, abracadabra. Okay, we got it. So, here we're going to learn how to solve a ghost cube. Fairly simply, fairly straightforward. Amaze your friends, impress your family, show how you can take this jumbled up work of modern art, I guess, and turn it back into a cube. How are we going to turn this back into a square? And what you tell people is that you don't have the benefit of colors or even shapes to really guide you. So it's got to be something else. Now I'm going to roll out this guy here too, just to kind of demonstrate what the solve means, or kind of go through the steps to see if there's any issues with perspective problems that you might have. Now I do assume knowledge on how to solve a 3x3, so I'm going to be referring to certain algorithms. I'm not going to get into them specifically necessarily. I'm going to assume that you know what I'm talking about. So you need to solve this, or be able to solve this, before you can solve this. So the first step in solving a 3x3, at least the way that I do it, is you do layer by layer. Now you can see where the layers come out. You don't know which ones are off center. All we can see is we have a center, edge, 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 corner, 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 corner. Center, edge, 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 corner, 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 corner. So you can see that all around this puzzle. So normally what you would do is you'd pick any side, really at random, and you put in your cross, right? So I'll start off with a green side. Cross, well, the first step, the first part is done fairly intuitively. What that means is I don't really need to describe it too much. Anyone can solve a side if they just play around with it enough. So you put this over here, you've got this up over here. The colors really guide you through. So there's really no problems here. It's a nice quick solve. So we've got the edges over here. Corners are just done by what I would call an RD commutator. This needs to come up over to here. So just blast that in. Again, I'm assuming knowledge of what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going through it step by step. Now putting in the cross was easy because I could correlate this center and this center with this edge. So it was quick and it was fairly easy. So how do I translate to this when I can't really correlate that? Because these centers, it doesn't matter how they're rotated. I can go like this, or I do say a 2F, 2B, 2F, 2B, and 2F. What I did is actually rotated this, but you wouldn't know and you wouldn't care because it's the same in all directions. It's equivocal in all directions. This isn't, which means that whatever my middle layer is, my edges, my centers rather, it could be rotated and I wouldn't know. So here's what I would do. Here's how you can do this pretty simply. First off, find a top and a bottom that in this particular puzzle is not solved off center. So there's two types of centers that you'll notice. Two of them has a tip at the end, a point here and here. Most of these other centers don't. You know, you've got a little angulation here, but this has a point over here and this has a point over here. So the true top and the true bottom are going to be the centers that sort of stick out over there. So pick one that you want. See this kind of shape here? It's got a distinctive shape, so I'm going to start off with this one. So I know that when solved, this was the layer that you can move freely, and you can see that everything is lined up. You want to start off with that layer because you can easily, or more easily, put the edges and the corners in. You can more easily solve the side. If you do one of the middle layers here, you can't really easily do that. You might be able to get one line across here, but then you'd have to get a separate line here and a separate line here. And as a matter of fact, that might be a nice challenging way to solve this puzzle if you wanted to. Actually solve it with one of the middle layers, centers being the top. But for the purposes of ease, we'll go ahead and try this one. So find this kind of a center. It's not going to be hard to find. You have two equivalent centers. They look kind of like each other, but we're going to start off with this. The pieces that are going to come in here, the edges that are going to be more easily recognized as they're going on the top or the bottom, is one that slopes long and down. So that would be something like this. This is like a long slope to it. There's going to be another piece that's kind of like it right over here. So you can see these two are kind of equivalent. So that's going to occupy a space at the top and the bottom. The other piece to be aware of is the most rectangular shape in the puzzle. and you see this over here, and then there's going to be another one over here. It's not trapezoidal, it's rectangular, perfectly rectangular. So what we're going to do is we're going to start placing those first because it's easier to see. Now what you're going to see is among this type of shape and this, which is homologous, you've got a flat end, and then you've got an angulated end. Flat end, angulated end. What we're going to do is we're going to take the angulated end here and put it up against this angulated side here. So which one is it? Is it this? Is it this? Well, you can move this here, and you can see it sort of fits, but not so much. Now the thing about a ghost puzzle, having solved numerous ghost puzzles over the years, I'll tell you that you really need to make sure it fits practically perfectly. If it doesn't, that's going to come back to haunt you. This is not practically perfect, so we're going to try this one. We'll move this to the side, bring it up, and this fits a lot more flush, so I know that this one is okay. Just to the opposite of that, the one that has sort of the straight edge down here, that's where my rectangle is going to go. So how about this one? I move this in here and you can see it doesn't fit, but it might just be upside down. We can try to turn it around, although I suspect that's not going to work. You can see it doesn't quite fit. So we can easily just find the other rectangular piece, which is right here. So now I'm going to move this in and move this up on the wrong side here. So that means it's upside down, and put it in. Notice the way that I'm doing this is I'm not depending on this layer to put things in like I did over here. And actually I don't need to, I can depend on the center. With here, this green center wouldn't coordinate where these are supposed to go because it looks the same on all sides. This center isn't, so I don't really need this layer here to tell me that. So the ones that go on the side here are going to be trapezoidal shaped like this. You can see that this doesn't really fit, so that doesn't belong here. How about this guy? Let's move this in, and still doesn't quite fit. Doesn't quite want to fit. Maybe it goes on the other side here. Move this in, nope. Maybe it's backwards. Move this in over here, and yeah, we kind of like that. That actually fits pretty well over here, which makes me wonder, well, so it's not this one, so find another trapezoidal shape. How about this one? The one that says his name, Adam. So I'm going to move this in, and nope, but it might be backwards, so turn. Now, even if you haven't memorized the shapes, it doesn't matter. You can kind of familiarize yourself. So there it is. So what we have now is we have the cross. The cross is in. The next step is to put corners in over here. Now, in this particular puzzle, it's fairly easy to see which corner goes into here. There's two broad types of corners, triangles and these little strange offset angulated trapezoidal shapes over here. Because this has words on it, this triangle with words you can tell goes here too. So that's a gimme. Now if you solved starting with the other side, you won't have that, but that's okay. And even if the words aren't there, you can still find how to place it in. And sometimes it's trial and error. So I'm going to take this comes up to here. It's like an RIDARD type thing again. Move this in and up. So you can see this is fine over here. Now another triangle. Now beware that you have equivalencies of triangles. So you might not put the right triangle piece in, but there's no way to know about it, so don't try to avoid it. You can discover it during the last layer, and it's pretty easy to decide what to do. How about this? Well, I'm just going to roll it in with whatever technique you like in terms of corners. Line this upright, turn, and up. Okay, is this the right triangle? I don't know. We'll have to find out. We'll have to see. So there that is. Now this I find to be the more cumbersome of parts because there's a variety of different possible shapes. So I've got this corner, or this corner, or this corner. Any one of those could come into here. I know it's not this because it doesn't fit. What about this guy? Well, let's roll it in. Did we get lucky? Yeah, we got lucky. So this one rolls in here just fine. Now I need another one. This one. Let's try this only because it has a rough shape kind of like that. So turn, and bring it up. So there it is. And it truly is that simple. So this is my first side. This is my first side with a cross defined not by its perspective with this layer, because it's not going to line up with it anyway, but by the perspective of the center. So this is the equivalent over here. That's what you have. Now to get the second layer, something to notice is it doesn't matter the orientation of these centers. We don't care. But what we do care about is placing these edges. So as you recall, that algorithm to move this to here or this to here, we'll line it up here. To bring this to the left side, we're going to do a UI, LI, U, L, U, F, UI, FI, and that pops that into here. So this is a fairly easy step to do it from here to here to the right side, UR, UI, RI, UI, FI, UF, pops that back into here too. So like I say, this part goes pretty quickly. And we're going to pop this into here. And finally, this goes down to here. Okay, so second layer is done. So how do we navigate through here? Well, this part isn't particularly difficult from a strategic standpoint. It's just a little cumbersome in terms of finding what goes where, because you don't know if this is rotated correctly or this is rotated correctly or this. You don't know if it's 90 degrees off or 180 degrees off. So what I would do is this, is I would find an edge up here that obviously does not belong on the top. Now, how do I know it obviously doesn't belong? Well, all of these edges that belong up here at what will be the bottom will look kind of like these. You're going to have something long like this. You're going to have a trapezoidal shape over here, or rather a rectangular shape here, and trapezoidal shapes. If you take a look at this, this has a lot more noise to it. It's got two flat ends over here, so this doesn't belong here. This doesn't seem to belong. This does. It's got a trapezoidal shape, and this doesn't belong. So what I could do is just kind of scout around and see if this matches up with anything here. And what you can do is you can sort of surmise where it might go. I move it here, and this fits over here. So because this fits over here, I know that this is rotated 90 degrees off. But in what direction? Am I going to move it down like this, or am I going to move it down like this? So here's the advantage of the 3x3. These centers are in the proper position. Imagine what it's like with a master ghost cube where it's not. That is where a lot of the difficulty lies. Well, this, when it rotates down, we can surmise where it might actually go. So if this rolls down like this, then maybe this is rotated wrong. So just to see if that's the case, temporarily, I'm going to roll this down here just to set it up, set it into this position. Now I'm going to roll this down and see, and you can see it fits snug over there. So now I'm going to bring it back. What that tells me is now I know the position of both of these centers. This needs to rotate by 90 degrees, and this needs to rotate by 90 degrees, so that this is facing down and this is facing down. To make that happen, go ahead and put the one that you want to rotate to the top. And we know it's got to rotate down like this, which means that this part here has to articulate with this surface over here. To make that happen, just do a 2U to bring this part down, then do a 2R to get this out of the way so you can rotate this wherever you want. So again, this part here has to articulate with this. So 2U and 2R, just to bring that out of the way. Now I can move this wherever I need to move it. I'm going to move this down over here so that it can articulate with this side here. Then once again, 2R and 2U. So having done that, this is rotated where it needs to be, and this didn't really get changed. Now what I want to do is do the same thing with this, but this has to rotate down. Now don't get too hung up about maintaining this position. It really doesn't matter. This can always be flipped into this spot. The whole key right now is getting the center so that they're rotating right. What I'd also recommend is don't try to put multiple pieces in here at the same time. Just go piece by piece by piece. Working on this center and this edge and then this center, and just keep going around. So this has to rotate down. So this piece here has to articulate with this side here. So we'll go 2U to bring this out of the way from here. And then we're going to do 2R to get this out of the way so we can rotate this freely. 2R. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this in the direction where it's supposed to be articulating with this. We already kind of surmised that it's going to be this side here. So bring this up. You just had to keep track of what was supposed to be down here. It's this. Now we do our 2R to bring this back, and then 2U to bring this up. So what that did is that put this back in. Now we took this edge out, but that's okay. We can easily find it here somewhere. Is it this one? Well, let's see. If it is this one and I move it down here, nope, it's not there. Maybe it is this one, I just put it in backwards. Move this here, nope, it's not that. Maybe it's this one? Yeah, it was this one. Okay, so I'm going to do the same algorithm now to take this and move it down to here. So exactly the same thing, no difference from what I did with the 3x3. UI, LI, U, L, U, F, UI, FI. And lo and behold, this is in. So this is in, this is in, and this is in. What you can do is you can just keep going by trial and error and ask yourself the question, what's supposed to go here? Well, we can surmise this belongs to the top because it's trapezoidal. This one doesn't, but I'm looking for a straight edge here that doesn't have any flat surfaces. So it's not this, it might be this. So let's move this down here and see, and we can see that fits together nicely. Or does it? Not really. Actually, I take it back. Not at all. It might even be this one that's upside down, or maybe it's this part that articulates with that. To see if that's the case, what I can do is, actually it's maybe this part, is temporarily take this, move it up, and just check this out and see if it fits, and it doesn't. And down. So this part doesn't really fit here, and this part doesn't either, so it might be this piece over here. What I can do is just pop this up and see if it does fit down there. So let's pop this back up. Turn, 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 turn. Same algorithm. And turn. Okay, so we're dealing with this guy here. And this fits very nice over here. What that tells me is this belongs down here. So we have U, R, UI, RI, UI, FI, U, and F. And as you can see, our theory was correct. This fits nicely. I'm going to keep that for now because I need to pop something into here. Two flat ends are up. Looking for an edge that has two flat ends. This. So I'm going to take a look at this. Can this articulate with that? Bring it down, and yeah, that looks good over there. So I know that this can come down to here. Turn, 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 and turn. So you can see that these two flat ends facing up naturally coincide with these two flat ends facing down. So you don't have to do it this way. You can just do trial and error, but it's a little bit more of a hassle. The way to really tell is to see if this last piece really fits down here. Move this down here, and I see this fits really nicely. So we're going to pop this into here. Turn, 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 and down. Okay. So we appear to have this whole side in.